Welcome to another episode of You Had Me at Cheese, where my girlfriend, Venus, and myself, Eclipse, explore the many different aspects of the human experience. We are here with our selection of cheeses, and Venus has a glass of wine ready, so feel free to bring your favorite snack and join the party. Listener, if you're anything like me, then you're always curious to know more, especially when it comes to the people you love. And so it should come as no surprise that today's episode is an expansion on Venus's transition. In the next 40-odd minutes, we're going to hear from Venus what it was like to come out in the workplace, what happens when Tinder and colleagues collide, and of course, what it is like to interview as a trans woman. So join me on this exciting and freeing journey. I hope you enjoy the ride.
We've had the cheese. I've had some Prosecco.
We did have a lot of cheese. Venus had Prosecco and it was like noon.
Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So that's what they say.
It is 5 p.m. somewhere, for sure. We had so much cheese. Luckily for you, we left some.
Yes, thank you.
So you can snack on our leftovers.
And wait.
Yeah. We're very excited for the fact that we have more cheese in the fridge. We hope you do too. But if not, then grab your favorite snack or whatever snack is available to you, which becomes your favorite at that point. Grab a drink and join us on today's conversation.
Yes.
And so today's conversation is actually an extension of our last conversation about Venus's transition.
That's right.
How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling great.
Yes?
Yeah. I think we had a really interesting conversation, and looking back at it, and listening to it again, it's almost, sometimes you go through life and you forget in a way certain things, and it's not until someone asks you a question that you kind of unpack it again. And so that the moment on the toilet,
the magical toilet,
just like what I was going through at that time was like, it was bringing up some emotions or feelings or mindsets, I guess, where I was. I just felt very overwhelmed every day. It was interesting, like, listening back to that. And while I was just doing some house chores, I was reflecting on how different things are and how easy it is to just be me today.
No, yeah. I think it's really interesting that you say that, because a lot of times, a lot happens to us in one go, a lot of times, because when it rains, it pours, and that's just how life is sometimes.
Yeah.
And I find personally, and I'm not sure if you relate to that or not, but I find that when shit hits the fan, I'm like, all right, what do we need to do to fix it? And I'm not necessarily, I am looking into how I'm feeling, but really that's kind of pushed aside, because the main thing is like, how do I fix this? What do I do moving forward?
Yeah.
And that has value to a certain extent, but I think going back and diving back into how you felt in those moments and what actually happened and what mark did it leave on you, and reflecting on all of that and feeling it again, but from a safer place.
Yeah, it's almost like it gives you perspective, and you can kind of see the trail, the path that you've walked on, and that what achievements came along with it, and
so many.
Yeah, and it's kind of just empowering and positive, and like what's yet to come. I'm here for it because I know I've traveled a difficult path, and so moving forward, I can, jump into those difficult paths.
And I do think this reflection is super important, at least for people like you and I.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. Some people are like, what's in the past is in the past.
For sure.
If it works for them, great.
Sure.
I am not that person.
No, neither. I need to go back and
Yeah. I need to process things, and a lot of times I need to process things not only more than once, but
yeah, for sure.
more than 10 times.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, I will process things until I get to the resolution that I need.
Yeah. As we move forward in life and grow and change, looking back at certain things in the future when we are different in a different place with a different perspective, we can actually get some more insight by looking back.
Correct.
And at the time actually not seeing how powerful or the potential of something was. In the future when you have gone past it or you're in a different space, you can really appreciate something new.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, hindsight is 2020, as they say.
I feel like you said this today already because
I do say it a lot.
It is 2020. Like
I do say it a lot because a lot of times we can't quite see things for what they are when we are in the moment, especially when emotions are high.
Yeah.
And what you just said about not realizing how strong you are. I remember listening to a talk by a lady who immigrated with her kids when she was on her own, just her and her kids, and it sounds, very, very challenging, and it is, and immigrating is a very challenging thing regardless, but there's certain things that make it harder, and people kept on asking her, how did you do it? Like, it's so hard, it's so... And she said, I just did what I needed to do. And you don't think about how strong you are and how powerful you are when you are doing what you have to survive.
Yeah. But that comes in different forms as well. When you're passionate about something and you just keep pushing and you don't realize how much you've pushed until you're down the road and you realize how difficult that was. And so in this lady, in this example, she just needed to do what she needed to do, and it wasn't until later for her that she may have recognized.
I don't even know if she did. That's the thing. I think for you are now looking back and you can see the trail and you can see what you've done to
she
be
just
here.
moved on and next thing.
And I think for her it was kind of like, I just did what I needed.
Yep,
and that was it.
That was it.
Everybody else could see how amazing what she did was. But sometimes I think it also it's hard, especially if we have been brought up on being humble.
Yeah.
We don't want to toot our own horn, and
for sure.
We don't want to sound like we're full of ourselves, but I do think it's important. And so I want to salute you and say that you're incredible. And I love the woman that you are, and I can't wait to see the woman that you are yet to become.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Kind.
I love you.
I love you, babe.
But I want to talk about what we talked about last episode.
Yep.
And so you were talking about the person that you were before your transition, and you said you were quite isolated and you were very introverted, and it didn't sound like you were very connected to the people around you, at least not on a deep level as you do now. Tell me a little bit about how that started to break down.
I mentioned the concept of egg cracking, and so I'm going to use that in this analogy that I recognized a new need in myself, and so the egg cracked and I couldn't go back, and that was connections, and that was deep and meaningful conversations, and being able to be vulnerable with somebody and have them be on the same kind of level. And that kind of need is what drove me for change. I'm quite happy to like sit in my own space and wonder about things, or like, nerd out on some tech, or how I'm gonna achieve something on the computer or musically, or like, I'm very creative in my mind, but like sometimes I need to break away from just being in myself. And I think that's at that time it was, I guess I just got bored
Of what?
of just being alone.
But you're such a fascinating
Yeah,
person.
but the thing is, I don't know. Only a few people would see it, or it would come out every now and again. I don't know,
Mm.
but it was the need to connect with people. That was the biggest uh, shift that happened
Mm.
where I wanted to break away from who I was. So like it was multifaceted, and there was one of
Mm.
the reasons to change.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Did you feel like you couldn't connect as long as you weren't connected to yourself?
That's an interesting question. I would say I had one or two friends
Mm.
that we could engage on a deeper level. Generally, by deeper level specifically, it will be talking about life. Just, the deep questions, the big questions about life and all that there is, but it wasn't like interpersonal. So no, I guess I didn't have anyone to talk about
Mm.
asking them who they were on the inside and what.
Do you think? Sorry.
No.
Do you think they would have thought you were weird if you would have asked, "Who are you deep inside?"
I think it would have been quite out of the norm.
Mm.
I don't know, like it's so hard to like kind of look back at myself in that moment and kind of ask why I was the way I was, or why I didn't ask certain questions,
And you're such an inquisitive person. Like, I love watching you ask questions. When we have somebody over for a cheese board, or when we have somebody over for a viewing, when we are looking for a flatmate, you're always so curious. And I love it. And I just wonder, were you like this before?
I was, I would say, but there was some kind of lock on certain things, and that's maybe what drove me to change. Was I didn't like I felt quite restrictive, felt quite restrictive in many ways, and one was socially and in this exact specific way of not being able to communicate. What makes a person tick, like, really? And because I was like that.
When you say like that, what do you mean by like that?
By like being closed in.
So it was your closeness that actually made you feel like other people wouldn't be open to
Yes.
it, is what you're saying.
Kind of exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you started transitioning, did it become more natural for you to ask a question and be, I would say, openly inquisitive?
Yeah. I think I just ripped the Band-Aid off.
You're like, fuck it.
Yeah, like I went to work looking differently than ever.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
like, it was the next day for me. Like, I was one of those people who just went, I can't anymore. And
the egg cracked.
it was all
It
coming.
shattered. It's all over the floor.
It's all over the floor.
Everything is gooey.
You
It's going to be a fucking bitch to clean.
Yes,
but we're here for
You're
it.
trying to clean it, and you're just making a bigger mess. It's spreading everywhere.
Okay.
No, so initially it was very uncomfortable because you don't know what other people are thinking and stuff like that. But that allowed me to have to kind of speak about myself in a way that I've never spoken before.
It's like a conversation piece.
Almost.
Okay, I actually do want to ask you about that. That was one of the things that I was curious about. So you decided to rip the Band-Aid off. You're deciding from one day to another to go to work and to try different outfits that you've never tried before. What was the reaction like?
I didn't want to know. You know what I mean? I would kind of look away, or like I'm just gonna do me and kind of go to my desk or go to the bathroom or go get lunch or whatever. And initially, I was a bit uncomfortable, but it was the kind of uncomfortable which I needed to lean into. And so it's hard to say what the initial reaction was, but nobody was offensive or rude or
To your face.
to my face, nobody quite knew exactly what was happening, so I guess everyone went with the flow as far as I'm concerned.
Interesting.
But also, before I did change my look, my boss at the time, my manager, knew. I created that Tinder profile that we talked about. And while I did use like a face altering picture of myself, they figured it out. But there was a workmate who figured it out.
Wait, did you hold on. How? Okay.
I think whoops, I should have maybe mentioned this.
Rewind.
Rewind.
Okay, so we're back at the magical toilet.
Mm-hmm.
You created your Tinder profile.
Yes.
What's the timeline?
Yeah.
At what point do you go to work as yourself?
Less than 3 months.
Okay. I mean, it's still time. 3 months is still time. And then at what point between creating the Tinder profile and starting to go to work with different clothes, for example, at what point did your
manager
actually match with you on Tinder?
No, that's not what happened.
Okay, please explain it to me because I am right now totally confused.
So I was sitting in the lunchroom at the table that we had, and it's a pretty big table, and you would have like easily 10 people sitting around you and stuff. And I remember looking at one of the co-workers, and they were curiously looking at me, and then looking at their phone, and looking at me. And I don't know if they caught that I noticed this or not, but I was kind of like, that's quite suspicious, Like I remember there was it was weird. It was a little bit weird for them to kind of do that. And that's
Is it a coworker I know?
No, you never heard about them. And and then that same night, my manager reached out to me.
After work hours?
After work hours.
How rude!
No, it was nice because, they were like asking, they were curious. And basically when I told them, because I feel quite, this is someone I know for a long time. And so I felt.
Your manager?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could share this with them, and like, this is one of the people I could always be honest about. And so for me, I was just like, what's the point of, I guess, deceiving or lying? I'm not ashamed of myself. That's the main thing.
That's good.
And so when he asked about it, I just said what I needed to say. And the reaction was just, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. And just really positive comments. And that made me safe to feel like I can shift my appearance. And one of the first things that they asked was, do you want to change your name at work? Like, it was like immediately.
I fucking love that.
But it was overwhelming because I'm still like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still figuring this out.
I'm still figuring this out.
I think people think that if you are trans, you're supposed to just magically know things like just like that.
Yeah.
When actually it's a process, it's a journey, and sometimes you try different things before you know what's right for you.
For sure.
So I love the fact that he was trying to embrace you, but I can understand the hesitation. And so I do want to go back. So when you say, I said what I needed to say, please elaborate.
Oh.
You can't just sweep that under the rug. What are you doing?
I guess it would be interesting because I could go back in my messages and actually find out what was said. But it would have been something like, I think I mentioned transgender in that message. I think that was the direction I was going. Transgender was the word used because I came out to my best friend and his wife in the same way that I'm transgender, you know.
Yeah.
So I would have mentioned that, you know, and something along the lines of, I'm just figuring this out. I don't know where I'm heading and how and things like that, but that's where I'm at.
And so is it safe to assume that your colleague basically told your manager about the Tinder
Yes.
profile?
Oh yeah, they're good friends. Or were. I don't know, but yeah. And the thing about my Tinder profile and at the lunch table, it would have said less than 1 kilometer away, right? So like, that's why they were probably like, oh my god.
Did they ever talk to you directly?
Only after the fact.
After your manager talked to you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
I guess it would have been a different. I don't know. I think I do like how it happened. Because I was at home after work in my cozy space, you know, when I could have answered in the way that I did to someone I trust, versus if they called me out on it
At work.
at work, at the lunchroom or something like that. In that moment of like initial shock or like, I don't know how it would have gone, but I like that my manager reached out and we're nothing but
that's really good.
yeah, and it's very important. Like, I know at the time they didn't know what they know now about gender, about trans people and the rainbow community in general, but they did amazingly. It's not that hard to just give someone support to be who they are. I feel like people can learn from from just
how they handled it, even though they weren't so educated
and
on
they
the
went
subject.
and they educated themselves and told me later that they spent time to learn.
Yeah, which is really good. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know much about trans people or like the trans experience, and well, I'm not trans and my partner is not trans, so it doesn't matter to me. But I think there's
value.
There's value in it, both from the aspect of you're probably going to run into trans people sooner or later.
And you maybe have without knowing.
That's the second thing, like whether you know it or not. And you might have already run into some people. And maybe by being uneducated, you accidentally and unintentionally offended somebody. Yeah. There's value in if you want to be able to communicate with people from all walks of life. I think there's value in that for sure. But even if you're not looking at that, there's a lot that can be taken out of the trans experience and used in other situations. Because it's a challenging situation that you need to figure out, and a lot of it is kind of like transferable skills, if that makes sense. And by the end of it, the way our brain, or at least my brain works, is that you take all your past experiences and all of the things that you've learned, and then you implement them in your day-to-day life. And sometimes you just don't know when something would come in handy.
Yeah.
Like for me, when you work in an industry that a part of your job is wrapping gifts and you get good at it, you don't think, oh, this will be helpful down the line. But let me tell you, when nobody else does it for you, it is handy.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just never know when something, irrelevant as it may seem, will be useful.
Yeah. I think kindness is
Yeah.
always useful.
Kindness is key. And to be honest, I do find it sometimes a bit offensive when people say like, oh, I'm not trans, so it's just not something that interests me. But I think it's partially because I just find people so fascinating. And for me, it's like there's so many things that I have nothing to do with, but I want to know more about. And it doesn't matter that it's not something that I will do in the future. I am just curious about how do other people operate.
Sure.
Yeah, so but I just wish that people were more curious.
I think it's like one of those things for me where I'm like, isn't this common sense? You know, to be curious about walks of life.
More curious and more open-minded and more flexible in the thinking, and rather than going like, oh, you can't do that, in my day it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Just, does it hurt you?
Yeah.
Do you know what it's like? And if you don't, ask.
Yeah.
We may just answer.
Yep. I love that.
So while we are on the topic of asking, let's talk about job interviews.
I like that.
Because you worked for the same company for 7 years.
Correct.
And you transitioned while working for them.
Right?
But recently, you actually went for a job interview with another company.
That's right. It was time to move on.
Spread your wings and fly.
Yes.
And so I want to talk about what it's like, but also, does it feel differently applying for jobs as a trans woman? Do you have other concerns that you didn't have prior to transitioning?
I did have concerns. There were things I wanted to bring up. There were things that in my mind scared me, to be honest. How will they perceive me? Will I be treated differently because, I'm presenting as a woman? Or that I am, in a way, shaking their belief system. Being different is always a concern, and anyone who, falls into that camp will feel this way. Tattoos, piercings, etc. Maybe even just having blue hair. I don't know.
Person of color,
sure. So I did have my concerns, and there were things that were important for me to bring up in the interview. It's actually quite interesting because I feel like I've grown into a whole new person, to be honest. And I think I can let people see the real me much easier than ever before. So going into the interview, I was nervous, but not about because I was trans. I was just nervous. I don't know who these people are and how the conversation will go, how the vibe would be. Are we going to be talking about technical? Am I going to be questioned in a quiz type way? I didn't know. So those were really my concerns. I think anyone who is in a position to interview for a new job will go through the same concerns.
Was there anything that you did prior to the interview itself to put your mind at ease when it comes to your safety and the inclusiveness of the company?
I did not.
No, I
just went
jumped
for
into
it.
the deep end.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
And it's one of the things that was important for me to bring up. Hey, look, actually, I'm just going to say it to bring the words into the open and go, I am transgender, and to ensure that the workplace is inclusive and that will not have any problems with me coming on board.
So what did you say in the interview to initiate this conversation?
So we did the initial interview. We
Mhm.
went through experience and how I would do certain things to test my knowledge. And eventually, when we got to the part where I could ask questions
Mm-hmm.
and that floor was open for me, I brought that question up in
Mhm.
that space. The interview was about hour and 15, and so we are talking. This happened about an hour later. So we've already, in a way, connected. We've talked through things. We've
They've already fallen in love with you. It's just so
exactly.
hard not to.
Yeah, like honestly, I felt amazing coming out of that interview, and
I know.
not just because of the questions that I brought up that ensured that I'm going to feel looked after and that I had my voice. It was already a great conversation, and I felt a good vibe that just made me feel good, and I could be myself.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you brought up the challenging conversation. Hey, I'm trans.
Will I be safe?
Will I be safe? Is this company inclusive? What do you have in place to accommodate people like me?
Yep.
What was their answer?
Basically, the company was mandated to go through the training on gender inclusivity. That's what they told me, that everyone is up to speed because of they've had to go through training to understand. So they have assured me that the workplace is inclusive, the people are aware, and any concerns I may have disappeared. So it made me feel quite at ease. I was happy.
You were even happier when they emailed you back the same day.
Correct. They emailed me back like an hour later
Mhm.
asking for a second interview, which made me feel quite giddy, to be honest.
And you obliged.
I sure did.
Yeah, and so by the time you walk into their offices for the second interview, how do you feel about just bringing your full self to work?
You know, I'm a confident person. And so I would say the second interview was actually less stressful or less concerning because I was there in person.
Mm-hmm.
I just think I am better in person.
I mean, that's what your Tinder profile said.
Sure did. It's not exciting to be running out of time trying to find where you're going, but it was exciting because I could see myself potentially arriving here to go to work. And it's a whole different vibe, and a whole different scene. The location is different to where I have been working for the past 7 years. It was quite refreshing. And walking up into the office, I was greeted by a really good friend who actually referred me for the position, and that made me even more at ease, I would say. And I felt real good in my body, in my outfit.
You looked so hot.
Yeah.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Okay, picture this. So Venus is 6'3", which is like, if you're thinking in centimeters, then that's 193 centimeters, and she normally wears heels. Okay, so picture this. She's wearing these cute combat boots, I would call them.
I would call them, yeah.
Like
Small
black,
heel.
small heel.
Maybe an inch.
Really, it is really kind to anybody else because you are looking up and cracking your neck anyway. So if she wore heels, it would have been even more painful for everybody else. So we're talking cute black combat boots, a cute black mini skirt.
Pencil, you know, not too many.
I think it's more mini, but all right. The definition of mini for Venus I would say it's wide, but no, it's quite narrow, if you get my drift.
Sorry, not sorry.
I know, but just don't moon anyone, okay? Especially not in the workplace. So,
Yes.
this cute mini pencil skirt
Thank you.
and this really gorgeous flory red top, and just, I mean, nobody sees it, but the bra was so cute. But she just looked so fucking good.
Mm.
Guess who picked it? Anyway.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. So you walk in, you feel good, and basically your transness is a non-issue at this point.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
That's how you felt. And so I'm just thinking, for anybody else listening or for other workplaces, what do you think you can take from this experience and say, here is something that you can take from how they did it to reassure trans people who are coming for interviews or trans people who work in the workplace or anything like that? What do you think employers and managers and even just simple employees can do to make you and people like you feel included and at ease?
So the most simplest thing I can say to that is acceptance. I think it's very important to treat people as people first. If you don't have awareness of trans people, I think whether you're a hiring manager, whether you're just an employee, I think it's very important to be accepting of people's identities. If someone tells you they're a woman, and vice versa. Believe what they tell you. And you're hiring the person for their skills and their aptitude and what they can bring to the workplace, not for their gender. If you don't know what it is to be transgender, I think it's important to talk to someone, to do research, to understand what this person has gone through, is going through, and how to hold space. They should be free to use the bathroom where they feel safe. Just like any other person, walk up to them, ask them their name, and, and
So simple, eh?
it is actually really simple. And ask about what music they like, what movies they like to watch, what they like to do in their spare time. And if the conversation allows, maybe ask them if they want to share a little bit about their journey, about their difficulties. And after all, just treat them how you would want to be treated. Use their name, use their pronouns, and follow their lead. They know best who they are, so just trust them. In saying all of that, my situation was a bit, just a bit more complex, and something that did stress me out was that my legal name is still my dead name, or my old name, the name my parents gave me. It's not my chosen name. And so one of the people I dealt with for my legal documents handled it with grace. And so I'm very grateful. They were very understanding. And the whole process was easy as pie. And they assured me that my third name will be the only name that any employee would see in the company and any client, which puts me at ease. I don't want anyone using my dead name, especially if they use it in almost a derogatory type of way, to put me down.
Well, I have so many more questions,
I bet you do.
but for now, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for being candid.
And thank you for holding space for me.
Love you.
Love you.
We have reached the end of our episode and hope you have enjoyed your snack as well as our conversation. If you liked our podcast, we would truly love for you to leave a comment, rate our show, and share it with anyone who would benefit from our conversations. And if you didn't like our podcast, then don't worry about it.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No